My name is Willa Hart. I am 31 years old. And the night my sister called me, the family failure in front of 120 people, my mother raised her glass like it was a prayer. We were standing inside the Alder room at Briar House, under warm string lights and a projector screen full of baby pictures and engagement photos, while my sister Maris smiled at me as if she had forgiven something I had actually done. "You were always better at access than honesty," she said, and the room laughed before they understood what she meant. The missing $90,000 had been hanging over my family for almost 2 years. By then, and Maris had just told her fiancé's parents, her clients, our cousins, our old church friends, and half the town that I had stolen it. My father stared into his champagne flute. My mother's hand did not shake. In my purse, attached to an old blue plastic key tag, was a small black USB drive that my sister did not know existed. I had carried it into that party because private truth had failed, and because some lies only feel safe until someone gives them a microphone. By the end of that night, Maris's glass would hit the floor, her fiancé would stop standing beside her, and my mother would look at me like she was seeing the daughter she had accused for the first time. But when the toast began, I did not know if my hands would stay steady long enough to ask the DJ for one simple favor. The strange thing about public humiliation is how organized it can look from the inside. There were place cards in pearl ink. There were champagne coupes stacked in a tower near the bar. There was a welcome sign with Maris and Grant's names written in gold script, leaning against a basket of white roses. The room smelled like sugar, perfume, and lemon oil from the polished floors. A violin version of some pop song played over the speakers while people I had known since childhood pretended not to stare directly at me. My place card was at table 19. The family tables were 1 through 4. I noticed that before I noticed anything else, because I have always been a person who notices numbers first. I noticed timestamps, receipt totals, apartment numbers, medical dosages, missed calls, and the exact time someone says one thing when they used to say another. That habit has saved me more than once. It has also made people uncomfortable when they wanted the story to stay blurry. Maris saw me looking at the seating chart and came up behind me in a cream satin dress that was not quite bridal but wanted to be. "Oh, good," she said. "You made it. Not 'I'm glad you're here,' not 'thank you for coming,' just 'you made it,' like I had shown up to a court date." I said, "You invited me." Her smile stayed in place. Mom thought it would look better. That was my first warning of the night, though it was not the first warning of my life. By then, I had learned that my family rarely said the quiet part by accident. They said it because they were used to me swallowing it. I touched the blue key tag through the lining of my purse. The tag had once been attached to my parents' backdoor key. My mother had written "backdoor" on it in black marker when I was 15, back when she told me I was responsible enough to be trusted with emergencies. Now the tag held something else, my sister's voice. Not the version she used with clients, not the soft version she used with Grant's mother, not the bright, trembling version she used when she wanted my parents to believe she was overwhelmed, but trying. The real one. I had listened to it alone the first time in my kitchen at 11:58 at night, standing barefoot on cold tile, while my phone lit up with a voicemail transcription that made my stomach go hollow. I had listened to it again at work, with my supervisor beside me, both of us wearing headphones, both of us silent when the file ended. I had listened to it one last time in my car before walking into Briar House, not because I needed to hear it, but because I needed to remind myself that I was not crazy. Still, when Maris lifted her glass later and said, "To the family failure," my chest tightened so hard I thought I might sit down. I did not. I looked at my mother. Janine Hart stood beside my sister in a navy dress with pearl buttons, her hair sprayed into a careful shape, her mouth curved in that small social smile she used at funerals and church breakfasts. She raised her glass with Maris, and that was when I knew she had chosen the lie in public, again. Welcome back to the Madeline Files, where quiet people remember exactly what happened, even when everyone else tries to rename it. If you have ever been treated like the backup plan in your own family, or blamed because you were the one responsible enough to have the keys, this story is for you. Stay with me, because this is not a story about revenge the way people usually mean it. It is about timing, records, one old voicemail, and the moment a room full of people finally heard what I had been carrying alone. When I was 15, my mother gave me the backdoor key because Maris lost hers twice in 1 month. That was how things worked in our house. Maris made the mess, and I became the system that prevented the mess from happening again. My mother put the brass key in my palm one Saturday morning while she stood at the kitchen counter labeling freezer bags. She had a black permanent marker between her teeth and a stack of grocery receipts under one elbow. "Don't lose this," she said. "I won't. I know you won't. You're careful." She said it like a compliment, and at that age I accepted it as one. Maris was 18 then, already beautiful in a way that made adults soften when she walked into a room. She had thick, dark hair, a dimple on one side, and a gift for making ordinary things sound tragic. If she forgot to pick me up from debate practice, it was because she had so much pressure. If she overdrew her account, it was because she was trying to build a life. If she borrowed my sweaters and returned them smelling like smoke, my mother said, "She's social, Willa. Don't be stiff." I was careful. That was my assigned shape. I remembered to thaw chicken. I wrote down Dad's blood pressure readings after his first scare at 48. I knew which neighbor had our spare ladder, which drawer held the insurance cards, and which pharmacy stayed open past 9. When my mother couldn't log into the electric company website, she called me from the kitchen as if I lived upstairs instead of down the hall. "Willa, come here." This thing locked me out again. Maris could be sitting 3 feet away painting her nails, but my mother called me. At first, I liked being needed. I liked the way my father sighed with relief when I found the missing prescription card. I liked the way my mother said, "Thank God you're here," when the printer jammed before a tax appointment. It made me feel solid in a house that tilted toward Maris. Then I started to notice the difference between being trusted and being used. When Maris graduated high school, my parents threw her a backyard party with lanterns and rented tables. When I graduated 3 years later with a scholarship, my mother ordered pizza because Dad had a work thing, and Maris had a bridal shower for someone I had never met. "You understand," my mother said. I did understand. That was the problem. I understood that Maris's milestones were family events. Mine were scheduling conflicts. My father, Ellis, was not cruel in the loud way. He was a gentle man who avoided friction until avoidance became its own kind of harm. He worked as a parts manager at an auto dealership for most of my childhood. He smelled like coffee and motor oil when he came home. He called me Will and Maris Princess, and I don't think he ever noticed the difference landing in the room. When I was 19 and home from community college, he had a second heart episode. Nothing dramatic enough for a movie. Just a frightening morning, a gray look around his mouth, and my mother shouting for me to find his medication list, while Maris cried in the hallway with both hands over her face. At the hospital, I handled the forms. My mother sat beside Maris, rubbing her back. A nurse asked who had Dad's insurance card. My mother looked at me. A doctor asked what medications he took. My mother looked at me again. When Dad needed a ride to follow-up appointments, I arranged my class schedule around him. Later that week, Maris posted a picture of herself holding Dad's hand in the hospital bed with the caption, "Family is everything." I remember staring at that post in my parked car outside campus. I had a paper due, a 12-hour shift at a copying center, and my father's discharge papers in the passenger seat. That was one of the first times I felt the shape of the thing I was living inside. Not enough to name it, enough to feel the bruise. By 24, I had become the person with everyone's passwords, not because I wanted control, because no one else wanted responsibility until something went wrong. My parents had a little notebook in the kitchen junk drawer where my mother wrote passwords on random pages between recipes and plumber numbers. When banks started requiring security questions and two-factor codes, my mother got overwhelmed. I set up a password manager for them after she clicked on a fake email and nearly gave away their checking information. "Just keep it simple," she told me. "I can't deal with all this." I made a printed instruction sheet. I highlighted the bank login, the mortgage portal, the pharmacy e-account, the insurance site. I showed Dad how to use it. He nodded, then handed the paper back to me. "You're better at this stuff, Will. Maris teased me about it at Thanksgiving. God, Willa, you're like a human filing cabinet." My mother laughed. "A useful filing cabinet." She meant it fondly. I think that is what made it hurt more. I became a legal transcriptionist, partly because of that same part of me. I liked order. I liked taking messy audio and turning it into a clean record. I worked for a courthouse contractor, preparing transcripts from hearings, depositions, police interviews, insurance statements, and the occasional voicemail entered as evidence. It was not glamorous work. It required patience, good headphones, a strong stomach, and the ability to listen to people lie with confidence. Maris called it typing for lawyers. She built a very different life. She started an event planning business called Maris Hart Events, then later changed the branding to MH House because she thought it sounded more expensive. Her Instagram was all candlelit tables, champagne walls, linen samples, soft focus couples, and captions about curating unforgettable moments. She had a way of standing near rented luxury and making people think she owned it. My parents loved talking about her business. "Maris is working with a country club now," my mother told people. "Maris has a bride flying in from Dallas. Maris knows all the best vendors." When people asked about me, my mother said, "Willa does court typing." I used to correct her. "It's legal transcription," I would say, "and audio review." She would wave one hand. "You know what I mean." The first time I heard the phrase, "missing 90,000," I was sitting beside my father in a cardiology waiting room, holding his jacket across my lap. It was March, almost 2 years before Maris's engagement party. The waiting room television was showing a cooking segment no one was watching. My father had gone quiet the way he did when he was worried about tests. My mother had sent me with him because she had a committee meeting at church and Maris had a client tasting. Dad's phone buzzed while he was filling out a form. "Can you see what that says?" he asked, handing it to me without thinking. It was a bank alert. Available balance below selected threshold. I frowned because my parents were not rich, but they were careful. Dad had worked for 40 years. They had a small retirement account, a paid-off car, and a savings account my mother called the roof and medical fund. She talked about it with pride. It was not vacation money. It was not wedding money. It was the money that kept them from panic. The alert showed the last 4 digits of the account and a balance that looked wrong. Very wrong. I asked Dad, "Did you move money recently?" He blinked. "No. Your mother handles most of that." I did not press him in the waiting room. He was already pale. That night, I called my mother. "Mom, Dad's bank alert showed a low balance. Did something come out?" There was a pause, not long, long enough. "What were you doing in his bank account?" He handed me his phone. The alert came up. "I'll look at it. Do you want me to come over?" "No," she said too quickly. I said I'll look at it. The next morning, Maris called me. Not my mother, Maris. "What did you say to Dad about money?" she asked. I was standing at my kitchen counter pouring coffee. I asked Mom about a bank alert. "You scared him." "The balance scared me." She laughed, but not like something was funny. "You always have to make yourself important." I put the coffee pot down. "Is something going on?" "No." And if there was, Mom would tell me. That sentence stayed with me, not because it was unusual, because it was too fast. For 2 weeks, nobody told me anything. Then my mother called on a Thursday evening and asked me to come over after work. Her voice was tight and formal, the way she sounded when someone from church had offended her, but she was pretending to be above it. When I arrived, Maris was already there. She sat at the kitchen table in a camel-colored coat, her engagement ring not yet on her finger because Grant had not proposed then. My father sat at the far end, rubbing one thumb over the side of his coffee mug. My mother stood by the sink with her arms folded. There were papers on the table, but they were turned face down. I noticed that first. "What's going on?" I asked. My mother looked at me like I had disappointed her in a way she had been expecting. "There is money missing," she said. "How much?" She swallowed. "Around $90,000. The room did not move. I remember hearing the refrigerator hum. I remember seeing a chip in the edge of my mother's favorite blue mug. I remember Maris looking down at her nails. I said, "From what account?" My mother's face hardened. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like you're hearing details for the first time." I looked at my father. Dad? He would not meet my eyes. Maris said softly. Willa, if you made a mistake, this is the time. I stared at her. There are moments when the body understands betrayal before the mind catches up. My hands went cold, but my voice stayed even. What are you accusing me of? My mother picked up one of the papers and held it against her chest, instead of handing it to me. You were the only one with all the passwords. No, I said. You and Dad had access. I set it up for you. You managed everything, she said. You always have. I helped you. Maris leaned forward, her eyes wet but not red. Nobody wants to punish you, but Mom and Dad deserve honesty. That was when my mother said the sentence that made my ears ring. You were always better at access than honesty. I looked at her for a long time. Then I said, show me the statements. My mother looked startled. Excuse me, if you think I moved money, show me the statements. Maris's face changed so quickly that someone else might have missed it. 1 second, she was wounded and patient. The next, she was sharp. Don't bully Mom. I'm asking for the records. You're asking her to relive it. My father said, maybe we should all calm down. I said, Dad, did you look at the transfers? He rubbed his forehead. Your mother said, did you look? He did not answer. My mother put the paper back on the table, still face down. I know what I need to know. That was how I lost my family without anyone slamming a door. Not all at once, not officially. They still called sometimes when they needed something. My mother still texted me about Dad's prescriptions. Maris still sent group messages about holidays, as if nothing had happened. But underneath every interaction was the same accusation, dressed up in silence. When I came over for Easter, my mother moved her purse from the counter to the bedroom. When I offered to drive Dad to an appointment, he said, your mother's got it, even though she didn't. When Maris needed help converting a vendor contract from PDF to Word, she texted, can you do your document thing? And then added, no banking involved, promise, with a laughing emoji. I did not answer. The first month after the accusation, I tried to defend myself the normal way. I wrote a timeline of when I had accessed their accounts and why. I printed emails where I had sent login instructions to both of them. I highlighted the dates when I was at work during some of the transfers. I called the bank and asked what information could be released to an accused family member. The answer was almost nothing without my parents' cooperation. My mother refused to authorize anything. It will just make things uglier, she said. It's already ugly. Then stop digging. The more I asked for records, the guiltier they acted like I was. That was the part I could not make sense of at first. If $90,000 had been stolen from me, I would want every page, every timestamp, every camera angle, every signature. I would want the truth, even if it embarrassed me. My mother wanted quiet. Maris wanted sympathy. My father wanted the room to stop being uncomfortable. One Saturday, about 6 weeks after the kitchen accusation, my mother came to my apartment with a small padded envelope. She did not come upstairs. She called from the curb and said, I'm outside. When I came down, she was standing beside her car, holding the envelope in both hands. Inside was the brass back door key. No, that's not right. Inside was an empty envelope. She wanted the key from me. I think it's better, she said. I took my key ring from my bag. The blue plastic tag was scratched by then. The words back door faded but still readable. I worked the brass key off the ring and handed it to her. She looked at the blue tag. You can keep that, she said, like it was nothing. Like she had not just taken back the symbol of every emergency she had handed me. I watched her drive away with the key in her cup holder. Then, I went upstairs and sat at my kitchen table with the empty blue tag in my palm. I should have thrown it away. Instead, I kept it. Maybe because some part of me was not done understanding what it meant. My neighbor, Inez Calderon, knocked on my door that evening. Inez lived across the hall in 2B. She was in her late 60s, retired from the public school district, and knew everything that happened in our building without making anyone feel watched. She had silver hair she wore in a braid, reading glasses on a chain, and a way of asking questions that left room for no answer. I opened the door with my eyes swollen. She held out a container with a red lid. Chicken soup, she said. There's rice in it, not too much salt. I tried to smile. Thank you. You don't have to explain. That almost undid me. I'm fine, I said, because I was still trained. Inez looked at my face. No, baby. You're standing. That's different. She did not come in. She did not demand the story. She just handed me the soup and said, "Eat before it gets cold." I still remember that because it was the first kind thing anyone had done for me without needing paperwork attached. A week later, I told her a little, not all of it, just enough. She listened at my small kitchen table while I spread out the few documents I had been able to gather: old emails, screenshots, a printout of my work schedule, notes from phone calls, copies of text messages where my mother asked me to pay bills or reset passwords. Inez put on her glasses and looked at one highlighted page. "You do this for work?" she asked. "Sort of. I transcribe court audio, sometimes organize exhibits. So you know how to make a record?" "Yes." She tapped one finger against the table. "Then make one," I said. "They won't read it." "Maybe not today," that was all she said. No big speech. No family is complicated. No, but she's your mother. Just maybe not today. At work, records were not emotional. They were facts arranged so people could stop pretending confusion was innocence. My supervisor, Margot Sutter, taught me that. Margot was 58, wore gray cardigans no matter the season, and had spent 20 years preparing certified transcripts and electronic evidence packets. She could listen to a muffled recording and tell you where someone leaned away from the phone. She could spot an edited audio file by the breath pattern. She did not raise her voice. She did not waste words. One afternoon, she found me in the copy room, staring at a bank envelope I had no reason to have at work. "You've stapled that same corner 4 times, she said. I looked down. I had. "I'm sorry. Don't apologize to paper." She nodded toward her office. "Come sit." I told her more than I meant to. Maybe because Margot lived in facts. Maybe because I was tired of people treating my questions like attacks. When I finished, she said, "Do you have anything with dates?" "Some." "Do you have anything from the bank?" "Not directly. My mother won't authorize it." "Do you have anything from your sister?" I shook my head. At the time, that was true. Then, 2 months later, I noticed the memo line. It happened because of my father's cardiology follow-up. My mother refused to ask me to take him, but Dad called quietly the night before. "Will," he said, "I know things are awkward, but your mother has a migraine." I closed my eyes. I wanted to say no. Instead, I said, "What time?" At the clinic, Dad handed me his phone again, because the patient portal had logged him out. While I was helping him find the appointment confirmation, another bank notification slid down from the top of the screen. I did not open it. I only saw the preview. "Transfer confirmation. May events holding." My thumb froze. Dad said, "Everything okay?" I handed the phone back. "Yes." That was a lie. But it was the kind of lie you tell when the truth needs more room than a cardiology waiting area. That night, I searched public business records. Maris Hart Events had filed a DBA 8 months earlier under the name MH House. The mailing address matched a co-working space Maris used for client meetings. There was no MH Events holding listed publicly, but the phrase was close enough that I wrote it down. I did not know yet if it meant anything. I only knew my mother had said the money vanished in one withdrawal. The alert suggested there were transfers. Small ones, repeated ones. The first real statement page came from a mistake. My mother mailed me a folder of old medical receipts by accident. She had meant to send them to Dad's supplemental insurance. In the folder, between pharmacy receipts and an EOB, was one bank page. Maybe it stuck to another paper. Maybe she printed too much. Maybe some tired person at their kitchen table gathered the wrong stack. It showed 6 transfers, not the whole account history. Just one page. 5,000 here, 12,000 there, 8,500, 15,000. Each transfer had a date. 2 had partial memo lines, 1 said MH event. I sat at my desk so long the motion sensor light in my office went out. The dates mattered. One transfer happened 3 days before Maris posted a photo from a luxury bridal expo booth with the caption, "Big investments, bigger dreams." Another happened the week her business website relaunched. Another happened 2 days before she paid the deposit on Briar House for her own engagement party, though I would not learn that until later. I made copies. I scanned the page. I put the original back in a fresh envelope and mailed the medical receipts where they were supposed to go. Then I emailed Maris. I kept it short. "Marisis, I saw a bank transfer memo connected to MH Event or MH Events holding on Dad's account. You need to explain why your business name appears beside transfers from Mom and Dad's savings. I am asking once in writing. She did not answer by email. At 11:42 that night, my phone rang. Maris. I watched it light up on my kitchen table. I did not answer right away. In fact, I did not answer at all. There are decisions that look small from the outside. Not picking up a phone, letting it go to voicemail. Sitting still while someone else fills silence with who they really are. The voicemail notification appeared 1 minute later. I stared at it for a while before pressing play. Maris's voice came through low and furious. At first, it was mostly insults. She said I was pathetic. She said I had always resented her. She said I should be grateful she had not told people how unstable I was after the money situation. Then her voice changed. It got quieter, meaner, more careless. I will not tell you the whole message yet, because I did not understand the whole power of it that night either. I understood enough to stop breathing normally. Enough to put my phone flat on the table like it was hot. Enough to call Margot the next morning and say, I need to ask you something off the clock. Margot listened to the voicemail in her office with the blinds half closed. She did not react while it played. That was one of the things I trusted about her. She did not perform shock for my benefit. When it ended, she took off her headphones and said, Do not send that file to anyone from the phone. I nodded. Do not trim it. Do not rename the original. Do not play it over speaker for your mother. I was going to ask if I should send it to her. No, that surprised me. Margot leaned back. You can send a copy later if you choose. But right now you preserve the source. We export a working copy. We document the date, time, caller ID, duration, and device and file path. Then we transcribe it. I said, it's just family. Margot looked at me over the top of her glasses. No, it's evidence. That was the first time someone had used a word that made my hands stop shaking. Evidence did not need my mother to like me. Evidence did not need Maris to admit anything. Evidence waited. For a while, I still tried the private way. I prepared a packet for my mother. Timeline, transfer dates, screenshots. A written explanation of why the one bank page contradicted the story she had been telling. I did not include the voicemail transcript yet. Margot advised me not to, and I listened. I mailed the packet certified. My mother signed for it on a Tuesday. She called me Friday. Why are you doing this, she asked. Did you read it? I read enough, Mom. I said I read enough. What does that mean? It means I'm not going to let you drag your sister through the mud to save yourself. I pressed my hand against the edge of my desk. Maris's business name is on the transfers. You don't know what you saw. It's printed on the bank page. You've always been good with documents. That doesn't mean you're good with people. I was quiet. Then she said, softer, please stop making this worse. There it was, the almost apology shape. The voice mothers use when they want you to feel close enough to obey. I asked, did you show Dad? He doesn't need the stress. Did you ask Maris? Silence, that answered me. I said, I have more than that page. My mother's voice sharpened. What is that supposed to mean? It means I'm asking you to look at the records before you accuse me again. We are not doing this. She hung up. I sat there with the phone against my ear after the call ended. That was when I stopped trying to make my mother choose truth in private. She had seen a door and locked it from the inside. Months passed, then a year. The accusation became part of the family weather. I was invited to fewer things. When I was invited, the invitation came with a warning. Be civil. Don't bring up money. Don't upset Dad. Don't make Maris uncomfortable. Don't punish the family. Don't embarrass anyone. No one told Maris not to embarrass me. During that time, Maris and Grant Whitaker got serious. Grant came from a family with money, though not the flashy kind. His father owned commercial property. His mother sat on non-profit boards and wrote thank you notes by hand. Grant himself was polite in a way that felt practiced, but not fake. He had a square jaw, kind eyes, and the cautious manners of someone raised to avoid scenes. I met him twice before the engagement party. The first time, at Thanksgiving, he shook my hand and said, I've heard a lot about you. I almost laughed. I'm sure. He looked embarrassed, like he realized too late that sentence carried weight. Maris slipped her arm through his. Willa's our complicated one. My mother said nothing. I did not defend myself at the cranberry sauce. The second time I met, Grant was at my father's birthday dinner. He asked what I did for work, and before I could answer, Maris said, she transcribes people arguing, very cheerful. I said, mostly legal proceedings. Grant seemed interested. So you prepare court records? Yes. Maris waved a hand. She's very serious about commas. That made everyone laugh. I smiled because I had learned long ago that correcting the tone of a room costs more than people admit. Later, Grant found me by the coffee pot. I'm sorry if that came out wrong, he said. It didn't come from you. He looked toward Maris. She jokes when she's nervous. That sentence told me he loved her. It also told me he did not know her. The engagement party invitation came on thick cream paper with a wax seal Maris absolutely did not need. Together with their families, Maris Hart and Grant Whitaker invite you to celebrate their engagement. The date was September 20th. The location was Briar House. Dress code, cocktail. At the bottom, in smaller script, it said there would be a family tribute reel. That was when I called Margot. I did not plan to expose Maris that night at first. I need you to understand that. I was not sitting around waiting for a stage. I had built the record because records were how I kept myself from disappearing inside their version of events. I had the voicemail. I had the transcript. I had the partial bank page. I had my timeline. I had text messages. I had proof that my mother had refused to read. But public exposure has a cost, even when the person deserves it. Especially then. I knew if I played that clip, there would be no going back. My mother would not be able to pretend she had misunderstood. My father would not be able to hide behind exhaustion. Grant would hear something about the woman he intended to marry that could not be unheard. And I would become, in some people's eyes, the kind of person who aired family business in public. My family had already made peace with calling me a thief. I was not sure I wanted to give them a new word. So when the invitation arrived, I put it in a drawer. 3 days later, Janine texted, Maris wants you there. It would mean a lot if we could all move forward. I stared at the words, move forward, not apologize, not correct, not repair. Move forward. I wrote back, does moving forward include telling Grant's family I didn't steal from you? The message showed as read, no answer. The next day, my father called. Your mother's upset. I asked a reasonable question. He sighed. Well, can't we just have one nice night? I said. Dad, do you believe I stole the money? He was quiet so long I looked at the phone to see if the call had dropped. Finally, he said, I don't know what to believe anymore. That hurt more than a direct accusation, because he meant it as gentleness. I sent you records, I said. Your mother handles all that. No, she hides all that. Willa? My name sounded like a warning in his mouth. I said, I'll come to the party. He exhaled in relief. Then I added, but if she brings up the money in public, I won't protect her from the truth. His voice changed. Don't do anything dramatic. I'm not dramatic. I know, that's what worries me. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, because for 1 second, my father saw me clearly enough to be afraid of the right thing. Margot agreed to come as my +1, not as a bodyguard, not as a lawyer. She was neither. She came because she had watched me carry the record for over a year, and because she understood that evidence without a witness can still be buried by people who control the room. Are you sure? I asked her. No, she said, putting a transcript packet into a slim gray folder. But I'm coming. Inez came over the afternoon of the party, while I was standing in my bedroom, looking at the black dress I had laid on the bed. You're wearing that, she asked. I think so. You think so means yes, but scared. I laughed softly. She took the dress from the hanger and held it up to the light. It's wrinkled. I know. Do you own a steamer? No, I do. She returned 10 minutes later with a garment steamer, a lint roller, and a calm expression. She steamed the dress in my kitchen while I sat at the table, attaching the black USB drive to the old blue key tag. Inez noticed. What is that? Something I hope I don't need. She did not ask more. When she finished, she hung the dress on the cabinet handle. Stand straight, she said. For them, she shook her head. Not for them. At Briar House, the parking lot was already full when I arrived. I sat in my car for a moment with both hands on the steering wheel. The building was beautiful in the way old money likes things to be beautiful. Restored brick, black-framed windows, ivy climbing one side, warm light spilling through glass doors. Margot pulled in beside me in a sensible blue sedan. She got out carrying the gray folder. You okay? She asked. Good. Don't waste energy pretending with me. Inside, a young woman with a headset checked names off a tablet. When I said mine, she scrolled longer than necessary. Willa Hart, I repeated. Oh, she said. Table 19. Margot's eyebrows moved slightly, but she said nothing. I saw my parents near the champagne wall. My mother spotted me first. Her eyes went to Margot, then to my purse, then back to my face. Willa, she said, crossing the room. You came. Yes. She kissed the air beside my cheek. Not my cheek, the space beside it. This is Margot, I said. My supervisor. My mother gave Margot a quick smile. Oh, from the typing office. Margot shook her hand. From the courthouse contractor. My mother's smile tightened. Of course. Then she touched my elbow and guided me toward the coat room hallway. For 1 second, I thought maybe she was going to say something real. The hall was quieter. Coats hung on brass hooks. A stack of gift bags sat under a bench. My mother lowered her voice. You don't have to stay for the whole thing, she said. I looked at her. There was concern in her face. I saw it. I wish I hadn't, because it made me hope. What do you mean? No, this is difficult. I waited. She glanced toward the party room. Just don't embarrass your sister tonight. The hope closed inside me without sound. I said, is she planning to embarrass me? My mother's face hardened. Don't start. I didn't. You know what I mean. Yes, I knew what she meant. She meant Maris could say anything she wanted, and my reaction would be the problem. That was the last almost moment my mother ever got from me. I went back into the room and found table 19. It was near the DJ booth, which would matter later, though at the time I only noticed that it was close to the speakers and far from the family tables. Margot sat beside me. 2 of Grant's cousins sat across from us. They were polite and confused about who I was. Bride's side one asked. Sister, I said. Oh, she said, then looked down at her place card like it had become fascinating. The photographer called for family photos before dinner. Immediate family of the bride, he announced. I stood because old training is fast. Maris turned from where she stood between our parents and Grant. Her smile flickered. The photographer looked at his clipboard. I have Janine, Ellis, Maris, Grant. I said nothing. My father looked at me, then away. My mother adjusted her bracelet. Maris tilted her head with fake regret. We're doing formal groupings first. I understand, I said. Margot, still seated, looked at the photographer and then at me. She did not rescue me. I was grateful. Rescue can become another room where someone else decides your timing. I sat back down. Grant noticed. I saw him lean toward Maris and ask something. She whispered back. His eyes moved to me with sympathy. That was when I knew he had been told a story where I was not safe to include in pictures. Dinner was chicken with rosemary potatoes and green beans tied in little bundles. I remember that because I barely tasted any of it. I remember the fork pattern. I remember a water glass with a tiny chip near the rim. I remember Cal, the DJ, testing the projector while guests ate salad. Cal was probably in his late 20s, with rolled-up sleeves and headphones around his neck. He looked tired in the way event workers look tired before anyone else notices how much work a celebration takes. On his laptop screen, Maris Babi foto fenovel don MP4 Grant Miss Maris, travel don MP4 family forgiveness, reshow P4. My hand went to my purse. Margot saw. What? She murmured. Nothing yet. She followed my eyes to the laptop. She said. That was all. Grant came by our table after dinner. Willa, he said gently. I'm glad you came, thank you. I know things have been hard. I looked at him. What did Maris tell you? His face flushed. I don't want to get in the middle. You already are. He glanced toward the head table. Maris was watching us. Grant lowered his voice. She said there was a financial betrayal, that your parents were devastated, that everyone's trying to heal. Everyone. Trying. Heal. 3 words people use when they do not want to say who held the knife. I said, did she tell you I denied it? He hesitated. There it was. She said you never really explained. I looked down at my napkin. Then I said, I explained. They didn't want the explanation. Grant seemed troubled, but Maris appeared beside him before he could answer. Baby, she said, slipping her hand into his. Your mom wants us for the cake photos. Then she looked at me. Her voice went sweet. Don't corner my fiancé, Willa. I said. I answered his question. He didn't ask for a deposition. Margot's fork paused halfway to her plate. Maris noticed her then, really noticed her. And you brought backup, she said. I said, I brought a guest. Maris smiled. Of course you did. She led Grant away. Margot waited until they were out of earshot. She's nervous. She's cruel when she's nervous. No, Margot said, unfolding her napkin. She's cruel when she thinks it will work. The toasts began at 8:37. I know because I looked at my watch when Grant's father tapped his glass with a spoon. His toast was polished and kind. He spoke about meeting Maris, about how she brought beauty into rooms, how Grant had always wanted a partner with vision. People smiled. Maris dabbed the corner of her eye. Grant kissed her temple. Then my father stood. For a second I wondered if he might say my name. He did not. He talked about Maris as a little girl arranging stuffed animals into weddings, Maris turning the garage into a gala at age 10, Maris bringing sparkle into the Hart home. His voice trembled. He looked proud and tired. My mother went next. She spoke about daughters. Not daughter, daughters. But every story was about Maris. Maris with a hairbrush microphone. Maris designing centerpieces from weeds. Maris turning hardship into beauty. Then my mother said, "And as a family, we've learned that love means choosing grace, even after disappointment." Several people made soft sounds of approval. My skin went cold. Margot's hand rested near the gray folder, not on it. Then Maris took the microphone. She stood in the center of the room, in her cream satin dress, her ring flashing under the lights, Grant beside her with one hand at her waist. Behind them, the projector screen showed a paused photo of Maris and Grant on a beach, laughing into the wind. Maris looked around the room like she owned every face in it. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "Grant and I feel so loved tonight." She talked about romance, timing, second chances, family. Her voice had a little tremble in it, expertly placed. She thanked Grant's parents for welcoming her. She thanked my parents for teaching her resilience. Then she looked at me. "And I want to say something a little personal." Grant's smile faltered. My mother lifted her glass before Maris even finished the sentence. I remember thinking, she knew. Maybe not the exact words, but she knew something was coming. Maris continued. "Some families look perfect from the outside, but every family has its tests. Ours had a big one." The room quieted. I felt people turning toward me before they knew why. Maris gave a small, sad laugh. "Most of you know I don't like talking about painful things." That was almost impressive. She loved talking about painful things if she could choose who caused them. "But tonight is about honesty," she said, "and forgiveness, and learning that even the people who hurt us can still have a seat in the room." My father stared at the floor. I did not move. Maris raised her glass. "So I want to make a toast." Her eyes stayed on mine. "To the family failure, who taught us all how expensive trust can be." A few people laughed. Not all. Enough. My ears filled with heat. Maris smiled like the laughter had fed her. My mother raised her glass higher. "And to my parents," Maris said, "who lost $90,000 and still found room in their hearts to let the person responsible show up tonight." There it was, not hinted, not implied, named. $90,000, 120 people. My mother's glass in the air. My father's silence. Grant's hand slipping slowly away from Maris's waist. Maris was still speaking. She had every password, she said. Every account, every key. And maybe that's why this hurts so much. Because some people confuse access with love. She looked at me with shining eyes. "You were always better at access than honesty." The room had changed by then. The laughter was gone. That did not stop her. "In the spirit of moving forward," she said, "I forgive you, Willa. It is hard to explain what I felt in that moment without making it sound bigger than it was. I did not feel brave. I did not feel triumphant. I felt my pulse in my throat and the old, childish wish that my mother would lower her glass. She did not, so I stood, not fast, not dramatically, just stood. Maris paused, surprised, but only for a second. "Oh," she said into the microphone with a soft laugh. "Do you want to say something?" I looked at her, then at my mother, then at Grant. "No," I said. "I want to play something." The room went so quiet I could hear someone set down a fork. Maris's smile tightened. "This isn't really the time." I said, "You made it the time." My mother hissed, "Willa." I turned and walked to the DJ booth. Cal looked at me with the strained expression of a man who had been paid to manage music, not family collapse. "I can't just let guests," he began. I took the USB drive from my purse. The blue key tag swung under it. "My sister just accused me of stealing $90,000 in front of your entire sound system," I said quietly. "There is one file on here. It is 1 minute and 14 seconds. It has a title card and transcript. You can refuse, but if you play it, I only need track 3. Cal looked past me at Maris. She had lowered the microphone. My mother was already moving toward us. Margot stood from table 19, not quickly, just enough. Cal looked at Margot, then at me. "What is it?" he asked. I said her own voice. He took the drive. My mother reached me then and grabbed my wrist. "Stop this," she whispered. I looked down at her hand. For years, that hand had passed me forms, keys, receipts, pill bottles, passwords, responsibilities. Now it was gripping me hard enough to hurt. I said, "Let go." She did not. Margot's voice came from behind her. "Janine." My mother turned. Margot did not raise her voice. "Take your hand off her." Something about the plainness of it worked. My mother let go. Cal plugged in the drive. The projector screen blinked. For 1 second, Maris and Grant's beach photo disappeared, and the screen went black. Then white text appeared. Voicemail from Maris Hart, June 18, 11:42 p.m. duration. 1 minute 14 seconds. Maris said, "What is this?" No one answered. Then her voice filled the room. Not the polished toast voice, not the bride voice. The other one. "Willa, you sanctimonious little clerk. Do not email me about things you don't understand." The room froze. The transcript appeared beneath the audio, line by line. Maris took 1 step toward the screen. Cal did not stop the file. Her recorded voice continued. "You think because you saw 1 memo line, you suddenly know something. You don't. You know what you've always known, which is how to stand there with your little folders and make everyone tired." On the recording, she laughed once. It was ugly. Then came the part I had not let myself repeat in my head unless I had to. I moved what I needed to move. Mom was never going to believe it was me. Not when you were the one with the passwords. That was the whole point. You were the perfect cover because you've been carrying their keys since high school. A sound went through the room. Not a gasp exactly. More like everyone inhaled and forgot to exhale. My father lifted his head. My mother's face emptied. The recording kept going. "And don't act wounded. You loved being important. You loved being the one they needed. So congratulations, Willa. You finally got to be useful," Maris said loudly. "That is not real." But her recorded voice was still speaking. "The money is already where it needs to be. You can make your little spreadsheet if it makes you feel powerful. Mom will cry, Dad will shut down, and I'll tell them you've always been resentful. Who are they going to believe? Me, or the daughter who had access to everything?" The file ended. No music came back on. No one moved. Then my sister's champagne glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. The sound was sharp and small after all that. For a second, Maris looked like a child caught with a match. Then she became herself again. "That is fake," she said. "That is spliced. She does this for a living. She makes transcripts. She could make anything sound like anything." Margot stepped forward with the gray folder. She did not look at Maris. She looked at Grant. "My name is Margot Sutter," she said. "I supervise certified legal transcription and electronic evidence preparation for court contractors. That is an original voicemail copy with the source number, timestamp, and transcript attached." She placed the folder on the nearest table. Grant picked it up. Maris snapped. "Don't touch that." He looked at her. It was the first time all night he looked at her without softness. Margot continued. "The transcript includes file information, call log screenshots, and a working copy reference. There is also a transfer timeline based on the bank page Willa received by accident. I am not making any legal claim here. I am telling you the audio you heard was not fabricated." My mother whispered, "Maris?" That one word almost made me close my eyes. Not because it was enough, because it was too late. Maris turned on her. "Mom, don't, you know how she is." My mother flinched. My father stood slowly. His chair scraped the floor. "Maris," he said, and his voice cracked. "What did you do?" Maris's face twisted. "I didn't do anything, not like that. It's out of context." Grant opened the folder. I watched his eyes move over the first page, then the second, then the timeline. His father came to stand beside him. His mother stood too, one hand pressed against her collarbone. Maris reached for Grant's arm. "Baby, please. This is a family issue." He moved his arm away. That was the first visible consequence. Quiet, clean, devastating. The room saw it. Maris saw the room see it. She turned toward me, and for the first time that night, her face was not beautiful. It was furious. "You planned this," I said. "You made the toast. You brought that here to ruin me. No, I said. I brought it in case you tried to ruin me again. My mother said, Willa, we should talk about this privately. I looked at her. Private had been where the truth went to die. No, she recoiled as if I had shouted. I had not. Grant's father asked, is there more documentation? Margot said, copies can be provided to the appropriate parties. Maris laughed, high and panicked. Appropriate parties? Listen to you people. This is insane. She's jealous. She has always been jealous. I did not answer. That made her angrier. She couldn't stand that I was happy, Maris said, turning to the room now. She couldn't stand that I got chosen. Grant looked at her then, and I saw the sentence land somewhere neither of them could avoid. Chosen. Maris had said the wrong word. His mother took the folder from him gently and read one line. Her mouth tightened. My father walked toward my mother, not Maris. He stood beside her and looked at the screen, though the screen was black again. I saw that memo once, he said. My mother turned sharply. Ellis. He did not look at her. I saw it on an alert. You said it was nothing. I thought no, he said. That was all, no speech, no accusation. Just the smallest refusal to keep carrying the same silence. So Maris started crying then. Real tears. Useful tears, definitely. Mom, she said, reaching for Janine. Tell them Willis twists things. My mother's hands were shaking now. I watched her look from Maris to me, from me to the shattered glass, from the glass to the folder in Grant's hands. She looked older than she had 10 minutes earlier. Maris, she said, barely audible. Did you move the money? Maris wiped her face. I borrowed it. The room reacted again, not loudly, enough. My father put one hand on the back of a chair. Grant said, borrowed. Maris turned to him. I was going to put it back. With my parents' savings? I asked. She glared at me. You don't understand business. I almost laughed then, but I didn't. There it was. Her last defense. Not that she had not done it. That I was too small to understand why she had. My mother sank into a chair. For years, I had imagined the moment she believed me. I thought it would feel like relief. I thought something locked in my chest would open. But watching her sit there, one hand over her mouth, I felt mostly tired. She had needed my sister's confession, in a room full of strangers, because my word had not been enough in her kitchen. Grant handed the folder to his father. Then he turned to the guests. His voice was low, but the microphone near Maris still picked up part of it. I'm sorry, he said. The party is over. Maris grabbed his sleeve. Grant, no, don't do this in front of everyone. He looked at her hand until she let go. You did this in front of everyone, he said. People began to move carefully, the way people leave a room where something has broken, and they do not want glass in their shoes. Chairs scraped. Women gathered purses. Men avoided eye contact. Someone from the venue came with a broom for the shattered champagne glass. Cal stood at the DJ booth with his hands folded, looking at the floor. I turned to him. Thank you, I said. He nodded once. I'm sorry. It was a strange apology, not for what he had done, for what he had witnessed. Margot put a hand lightly on my shoulder. You ready? She asked. I looked at my parents. My father had not moved. My mother was crying silently now. But she was not looking at me. She was looking at Maris. Maris saw me watching and changed tactics so quickly it almost made me dizzy. Willa, she said, voice breaking. Please, we're sisters. For years. I had wanted her to say those words like they meant something. Not as a shield. Not as a demand. Not when the room had finally turned. I said, not tonight. Her face crumpled, then hardened. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. No, and I wasn't. That surprised me too. I was not happy. I was not satisfied in the way people imagine satisfaction. I felt exposed, emptied, and very still. The truth had landed, but it had landed in the middle of my family. There was no way for that not to hurt. My mother stood. Willa, she said, please don't leave like this. I looked at her hand. It was reaching toward me, but not all the way, still asking me to close the distance. I left a long time ago, I said. You just kept calling when you needed something. Her face folded. My father whispered, Will. I turned to him. He looked like he wanted to apologize, but did not know which words were load-bearing enough for the damage. I said, read the packet. He nodded. Actually, read it. He nodded again. Then I walked out with Margot. Outside, the air was cool and damp. The parking lot lights made pale circles on the pavement. Guests stood in little clusters beside cars, speaking in low voices. A woman who used to teach my Sunday school saw me and looked away. Grant's mother passed me near the entrance, the gray folder held against her chest. She stopped. "I am very sorry," she said. "I did not know what to do with that. Thank you." She looked like she wanted to say more, then chose not to. I respected that. Margot walked me to my car. "You should not drive yet," she said. "I'm okay." "No, you're functioning. Different thing." That sounded so much like Inez that I almost smiled. We sat in my car for 15 minutes with the heater on low. I held the blue key tag in my palm. The USB drive was still warm from Cal's laptop. Margot did not ask me how I felt. She knew better. "Finally," she said. "You did not make that happen. You allowed it to be seen." I looked at the dark windshield. That feels like a technical distinction. Most important distinctions are. The next morning, my mother called at 7:12. I watched the phone ring, then I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 7:18. Then my father, then Maris, then my mother again. At 8:03, a text came through. "Please call me. Your father is very upset, and I don't understand all these papers." I sat at my kitchen table with coffee I had not tasted. There it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "we were wrong," not "what did we do to you." I don't understand all these papers. Even then, she wanted me to translate the consequences. I typed back one sentence, "Ask Maris." Then I blocked Maris's number. I did not block my parents yet. That came later. At first, I changed them to written contact only because I knew if I heard my mother cry, the old wiring might still try to make me useful. Maris emailed that afternoon. The subject line was, "How could you?" I did not open it. Grant emailed 2 days later. His message was short. "Willa, I am sorry for what happened and for what I believed without asking you directly. My family has withdrawn all financial involvement from Maris's business. I have asked her for space while I understand the rest. If there are documents that should go to your parents or anyone reviewing the transfers, please send them through Margot or another third party. I won't contact you again unless necessary." I appreciated the last sentence most. He understood that apology did not earn access. The consequences did not unfold like a movie. There was no dramatic arrest the next morning, no police at the door, no instant courtroom ending. Real life usually moves through emails, canceled meetings, frozen plans, and people suddenly discovering that reputation is a kind of currency. Grant's father withdrew from the investment he had been discussing with Maris. I only knew because Maris left me a voicemail from a blocked number, screaming that I had cost her future. I saved it but did not transcribe it. Not everything needed to become a record. Some things could just become a reminder. 2 of Maris's clients canceled after hearing a version of what happened. I did not contact them. I did not post about it. I did not send the clip around town. People who had been in that room did what public rooms do. They carried the story themselves. My parents hired someone from the bank to help review the account. My father left me a handwritten note in my mailbox 3 weeks later. "Will, I saw one of the transfer alerts last year. Your mother said Maris had explained it. I did not ask more because I did not want another fight. That was cowardly. I am sorry I let you stand alone. Dad, I read it twice. Then I put it in a drawer, not because it meant nothing, because it did not mean enough to change my decision. My mother's apology took longer, and when it came, it arrived wearing excuses. She wrote, I was scared. I didn't know what to believe. Maris was in such a fragile place. You have always been so capable that I think I forgot you could be hurt, too. I sat with that sentence for a while. You have always been so capable. There it was again. The compliment that made room for neglect. I wrote back, I was hurt, I was accused, I was excluded. You raised your glass while she blamed me in public. I am not available for phone calls. If you want to communicate, do it in writing and start with what you did, not why you did it. She did not answer for 9 days. That told me plenty. I stopped paying their small bills first. The streaming service my mother could never remember renewing. The pharmacy delivery fee that had been on my card since Dad's second heart episode. The annual cloud storage plan I had set up for their family photos. Little things, invisible things. The kind of things no one counts until they disappear. My mother texted. The pharmacy says the card failed. I wrote, you will need to update it. She replied, can you just do it this once? No, that was all I sent. I stared at that word after I sent it, 2 letters. No explanation leaning behind it like a crutch. I expected guilt to crush me. It didn't. It visited. Then it left. I changed my emergency contacts at work. I took my mother off my apartment building form. I removed my parents from the password recovery email they had somehow become part of years earlier. I shredded old copies of their login instructions. I kept only what I needed in case the financial review required testimony. The blue key tag stayed on my ring. For a while, I did not know why. Then Margot offered me a steadier courthouse contract with more audio review, fewer rush jobs. It came with enough predictable income that I could rent a tiny office in a brick building 2 blocks from the courthouse. It was not fancy. 1 room, old radiator, scratched wood floor, window facing an alley where delivery trucks backed in every morning at 6. I loved it immediately. On the day I picked up the office key, the landlord handed it to me on a plain silver ring. I took the blue plastic tag from my apartment keys and attached it to the new office key instead. Back door had mostly worn away by then. Only the faint B and half of the K remained. I did not rewrite it. I liked it faded. Some things do not need to be restored to be useful in a new life. The first Sunday after I moved into the office, Inez invited me over for lunch. She made rice, roasted chicken, green beans with garlic, and flan from a recipe she said she had improved because the original was too timid. There were 2 plates on her small table. No questions waiting under the napkin. No one asking me to explain a transfer. No one telling me not to embarrass my sister. After we ate, she poured coffee and said, "You look different. I feel tired. That can be different." I looked at her kitchen window, where small basil plants sat in chipped mugs. "I keep thinking I should feel better. Maybe you will later." That was all. Later became smaller than I expected, and better became quieter. I did not reconcile with Maris. She tried several times. Her emails moved through the usual weather. Rage, blame, apology, shaped panic, childhood memories, accusations, and finally a message that said, "You're really going to throw away your only sister over money?" I answered that one. "No, Maris, you threw me away so you could keep it." Then I blocked her email too. My parents continued in writing for a while. My father's notes got more honest. My mother stayed careful. She wanted a meeting. I told her I would consider one with a mediator after the financial review was complete, and after she wrote a direct apology that did not use the words scared, confused, or fragile. She sent nothing for a month. I was sad about that. I was not surprised. 6 months after the engagement party, I saw Grant in the courthouse hallway. Not in court, near the records office. He was wearing a navy suit and holding a folder. For 1 second, we both froze, then he nodded. "Grant," he looked tired, but lighter somehow. "I hope you're well," he said. "I am." He did not ask about Maris. I did not ask either. Before he walked away, he said, "For what it's worth, I should have asked better questions." I said yes. He accepted that. No defense, no flinch, just a nod. That was one of the cleanest apologies I received from anyone connected to that room. The final time I saw Maris in person was almost a year after the party, outside my office building. She was waiting near the entrance when I arrived with coffee in one hand and a stack of audio files in my bag. Her hair was shorter. She wore sunglasses even though the morning was cloudy. I stopped several feet away. "No," I said. She took off the sunglasses. "You haven't even heard what I'm going to say." "I have." Her mouth tightened. "Mom misses you. That's between Mom and Mom. She's your mother." "I know. Dad's health isn't good." Then he should follow his doctor's instructions. She stared at me like I had spoken another language. "You are so cold now." I shifted my bag on my shoulder. "No, I'm clear." That might sound like a line, but in the moment it did not feel polished. It felt like the simplest description of what had changed. She stepped closer. "I made mistake. Yes. You humiliated me." I looked at her then. Really looked. "You called me the family failure in front of 120 guests." Her eyes flashed. "Because I was hurt. You were caught." She looked away first. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Traffic moved behind her. Somewhere down the block, a delivery truck beeped while backing into the alley. My office key was in my hand, the blue tag resting against my palm. Then she said, quieter, "What do you want from me?" There was a time when that question would have opened a door. I would have wanted an apology, an explanation, an admission, a sister. I would have wanted her to become someone who could sit across from me and tell the truth without checking who was listening. But standing there outside the office I paid for myself, holding a key no one had given me as a burden, I realized I did not want anything from her anymore. That was the freedom I had not expected. I said, "Nothing." Her face changed. "It is one thing to be hated. Hatred keeps you central. It is another thing to be released," she said. "So that's it." I unlocked the building door. Before I stepped inside, she said, "You really think you're better than us?" I paused. The old sentence came back. The toast, the glass. My mother's hand in the air, my father's silence, the black screen, her own voice filling the room. I turned back. "You called me the family failure," I said, "but I'm not the one who failed them." Then I went inside and closed the door gently. I did not slam it. I did not need the sound. These days, my life is not dramatic. I work, I go home, I eat with Inez on Sundays more often than not. Margot and I sometimes get coffee after long hearings, when both of us need to remember that people can tell the truth too. My office has a small lamp, 2 good chairs, a locked file cabinet, and a plant I have managed not to kill. The blue key tag hangs from the office key, faded and scratched, no longer a reminder that I was the person everyone called in an emergency. Now it reminds me that I decide which doors I open. My parents know where to send letters. Sometimes my father does. Sometimes my mother adds a note at the bottom in her careful handwriting. I answer when there is something honest to answer. I do not answer panic. I do not answer guilt. I do not answer requests disguised as concern. Maris's wedding to Grant never happened. I did not celebrate that. I simply noticed that the world kept turning without requiring me to fix what she broke. Sometimes people ask whether I regret playing the clip. The honest answer is no. I regret that it took a public room for my mother to lower her glass. I regret that my father needed a transcript to say what he had seen. I regret that my sister turned my years of help into a weapon and then looked shocked when I stopped handing her the handle. But I do not regret the truth being heard, not whispered, not softened, not left in an unopened packet on my mother's kitchen counter. Heard. That's my story. An old blue key tag, the words "family failure," $90,000, and a small office door that only I unlock now. If someone in your life only values you when you are useful, take this as your sign to look closely at what they call love. And if this story stayed with you, leave a comment with where you're listening from. Subscribe to By Then I Knew, and remember this. You do not have to keep giving access to people who used your trust as evidence against you.